So we had a conversation last week. You gave me a call, and there was something on your mind, and we had a bit of a conversation. And out of that conversation, it seemed that there may be something very valuable that may be, beneficial to others who want to listen in on the conversation. I believe that you asked me, how did you get started in what you do? That was your question to me.
Yes.
And I believe the reason you asked me that was because you wanted to see how you might not necessarily do the same thing, but what is the pathway to doing our thing in the world? Is that right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah. And then we decided to revisit that conversation. That's where we're at today. And let's try to revisit that conversation. But what you were saying earlier, before we started to record, about success and about our collective perspective, our agreed upon perspective on success and what success is. And you made a point or a note that success is typically associated with the idea of financial gain. Let's talk about that for a moment. So what are your perceptions of success? What do you know about success? What have you heard? What do you think is that collective idea of success is? Is it just material gain? Is that what tends to be the main thing?
I
mean, I would agree with you. I just want to hear you speak about that for a moment.
Yeah, like financial success is wonderful. That's fantastic. Nothing wrong with that. Lots of money's great.
Right.
Money's awesome, right?
Yeah, no one is saying anything against that. Right.
But without it, we can still be successful. It does not make up the whole of success, clearly. I do feel that being successful is about being happy and satisfied and enjoying your life. It depends very strongly on what your goals are in particular as well. I would also say that to be, some people out there are never going to have the wealth that others have. And when if you tell them that they can't be successful because they don't have money, then effectively this idea of success is out the window for a lot of people. So it can't be that way. Things can't operate that way. That success has to come from within yourself. It's a feeling you have of being at peace, I suppose, with what you are and who you are. Yeah. And being happy. Definitely being happy. That's my understanding of success there.
So let me ask you a question here. That's interesting. We're trying here in having this conversation to define success also. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's harder than I thought.
Of course it is, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to think about this. It's not just a generic idea that we inherit that doesn't serve us. We have to, right here in this conversation, in order for it to be valuable at all for others, is that we have to touch for ourselves in the living moment right now what success is. And it can't be derived out of our conditioned thinking. We start with that, but we can't end with that. If that's all we do, then we're not really touching the fundamentals of what really success is. But as you speak, in fact, as you were saying that earlier, it occurred to me that it's possible to also be successful on wrong foundations. In other words, it's successful. We can also be successful on wrong estimates of who we are, on wrong estimates of what life is all about. And this makes me think about the basis of our understanding. And I really think we should start there. The basis of our understanding of ourselves, who we take ourselves to be, and what we take the world to be, what we take life to be. We have to start, in order for us to understand something as important as success, this concept of success, is we really got to start with our understanding about ourselves, because there is the risk that we can achieve success, we can build success on wrong foundations. So what I'm saying by that is this: it seems to me that in order to dive into this, we also have to ask the question, on what basis am I building my life? On what basis am I trying to create a life? In other words, on what belief? What is a fundamental belief that I have about myself and about my life? Because it is that basic principle belief which is motivating my life. And if I have a false understanding about myself, or an erroneous idea about what I am as this living reality and what life is, I can build a life based on a false belief, a false understanding of myself. Does that make sense? Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's continue with that for a moment. So it's true, as you say, that the generic idea of success is associated with gain, the idea of gain, right? And also the idea of loss, which supposes then that who I am, what I am, as I am, I can gain something that I need in order to be happy, however you define happiness, and that I can lose that something that I believe I need in order to be happy. Both these scenarios, both these situations suppose that the bottom line about me is that I am needy. I am lacking already. My starting point in life is that I'm lacking. I need something in order to make me happy. And I need to keep something in order to stay happy. But the starting point is the same. Both of these ideas presuppose or suggest that I am needy, that I am lacking, and that I must get something in order to be happy. I must achieve something in order to be happy, because I'm not. Success then must be related to happiness, because can we be successful and be unhappy? Yeah. Do we have proof of that, though? Do you know anyone personally in your life, or do we know any celebrities or any people who are in public face who are most obviously successful, but how miserable or how happy are they?
Yeah. Well, I think that that goes into this idea of this perception of success. It's in that a lot of people, so many people, believe that success looks like great financial wealth or outstanding financial wealth, and clearly this is not the case. Like clearly, lots of money doesn't equal a successful person, but we see so many people feel this way. So something I'm actually kind of interested in is why, what is it that's driving this force? What is it that's driving people to feel like this shared understanding that a lot of people have? What's
driving this narrative that we have about success?
Yeah, exactly. Why does everyone feel this way when it's so clearly? I mean, is it just possible everyone's needy? We're all needy, and we're being driven by this sort of machine that's got us convinced, or got a lot of people convinced that they don't have what they want. That's not a very positive thing.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, but I think we should just keep trying to break down this idea, this narrative, that what you're saying is that there is this common perception that we are inherit
Mhm.
and that we're born into. We're born into a particular narrative about ourselves and about life in general and about what constitutes our needs. And it seems to me, as I mentioned earlier, that our starting point, this narrative that we inherit, is that we are fundamentally needy. And we must examine this. Is that true?
Yeah,
We
definitely.
have to start there. Are
Yeah.
we really needy? What do we know about? Again, it's a question of what do we know about ourselves? And we have to even question that, because we cannot find out if we're truly needy. We can say, I'm needy. When we talk about neediness, we're talking about I am needy of something in order to placate my senses, or I'm needy of something in order for me to be happy, however you define that. I'm saying that my happiness is dependent on the acquisition of something or an experience that I need to have in order to be happy. Now, I want to question this need, this idea of being needy, which in our, it's not a common thing. It's not a normal thing to question. We just accept we're born into this idea about ourselves as being needy, and that the outside world can satisfy our need for love, for security, for connectedness. All of these things, we just take it as a given. That's according to the current narrative or idea I have about myself, which I really must start there, but we're not going there yet. We're wanting now to just first look at this idea of neediness. We don't question it because it's part of our way of understanding or our inherited way of seeing ourselves. We believe we are needy of things in order to be happy or to make ourselves happy or secure or whatever. So we got to start before we go to take a look at what is this idea that I have about myself that allows me to think I'm needy. Before I do that, however, let's start taking a look at this. Let's question this idea of being needy. Am I really needy? I'm not saying I'm not. And I'm not saying that I am. But this is a question that you and I must ask ourselves now, and we must try to restrain our energies for a moment to proceed too quickly. Let's take a look. I have inherited this idea that says, in order for me to be happy, I have to have certain things and I have to experience certain things. Love, security, connectedness, and money and wealth and name and fame and achievement and celebrity and whatever it is, all those qualifications for this idea of happiness, which we're looking at success, because that's really the breakdown of this concept also. So it's important for me to ask myself, well, am I needy first? I know I've inherited this idea, and I know everyone around me believes that, yes, you've got to have things in order to be safe, and you've got to do this in order to be this and that. But I'm taking a different route. For a moment, I'm going to stop and I'm going to say, well, okay, that could be true. You may be right. My inheritance, my conditioning may be right. That's fine. But I'm going to just, if you'll excuse me for a second, I'm just going to take a look at it though, if you don't mind, If you don't mind, I'm going to stop and I'm not just going to run with this thing. Why am I going to do that? Because I'm taking a look around me, and all those people who are genetically or generically kind of biased in the same way that I am to this idea of being needy in success and happiness. And I'm looking around and I'm going, well, there are some clear examples of many people who are extremely successful and have all the bells and whistles of life, but they are miserable. They're clearly unhappy. Okay, so I'm going, I better, it would be prudent of me to examine this before I mobilize my whole life's energy to achieving the same thing. Okay, they're trying to achieve all of these things and to succeed in all of these things in order to satisfy their need. And the starting point of that need is that I am needy. What is it that I believe about myself that makes me think I'm needy? We're not going there yet. I want to first question, am I really needy? And I want to question this first as a stepping stone into to go and take a look at, well, what is it exactly that I believe about myself? That I'm what? But let's not go there yet. Let's examine neediness. Am I really needy? Right now, Harry, you and myself, and whoever is listening to this potentially. Well, am I needy? Is it true that I'm needy? I don't know. I have to take a look. I've inherited this idea, but is it true? I go, well, I'll reason my way into having an answer to that question by saying, well, I need money to live. Well, is that true? I don't know that. That's another accepted norm. Well, I need money in order to have a home. I need love. I need this. Are any of these things true? What are they based on? My own examination of the reality. What happens if I decide, let's say, to put into question one of these beliefs? I need money in order to live. What if I go conduct an experiment for a year? Let's say I conduct an experiment for 12 months. That I'm going to put this into question. I'm going to examine it and put it to the test and see if it's true. Do I need money in order to live? What do I find? What will I find? Well, there are also, interestingly, plenty of cases where that's proven not to be true.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's a few of those.
Now, huh?
There's some really good ones. I've seen plenty of stuff. People, doing these, little social experiments, that sort of thing, where they, go without,
exactly.
go without for a year, and they trade whatever method they use to fulfill their needs. I guess like human needs, bodily needs, whatever.
Exactly. And where does money fit into this equation, except for the fact that they're not basing their survival or their living status on that?
Yeah.
So I need money in order to live. It doesn't cut it. As you say, there are many examples in social experiments that have found quite the contrary.
Yeah.
Okay, but someone will say, yeah, but you can't do that in this kind of society. Well, that's what everybody believes also. But is that true? So it seems to me this idea of neediness and trying to answer that, is it true that I am needy, is also itself coupled or linked with many other beliefs that we don't put into question. We seem to just live like goats. That's the bottom, what's at the bottom end of this, is that we've got ideas like success, we've got ideas like gain and loss, we've got ideas like neediness and about ourselves and about the world at large that we live in. The fact is they're all by inheritance, they're conditioned. And we are so indulgent with we're so indulgent to our apathy and laziness that we don't ask questions. We no longer examine the beliefs that motivate our living, that mobilize our energies. And that's really what we need to point to in this conversation. Why? Why don't we ask questions? That's an important question. Why don't we put these ideas and beliefs on what do you call that chair, on the lawyer's judge's court chair? I'm going to ask you some questions to see if you're telling the truth or not.
Yeah.
That's why aren't we asking? Why aren't we examining these beliefs? If it's true that a belief motivates and mobilizes my energies to a particular direction, do you think it's important that I should put this belief into greater scrutiny?
Of course, absolutely. Okay. Funnily enough, I've always felt I'm one who likes to ask a lot of questions, and a lot of people don't like that. It's I dig into things and really like to get stuck into like philosophy, of course. Why do we do the things that we do? It's nice that we do them, but let's get curious about, why we do them. And obviously, if your energy is being mobilized towards something, then of course we should examine it. Of course we should examine it.
So why don't we?
Why don't
Because
we?
there's a nugget. There's a nugget of this conversation is guiding us somewhere that we must go. And this question we must practically try to address, because that is really important. So why don't we, Harry? Why don't we?
Are we distracted?
Okay, good, excellent. We're distracted. Why else? What allows us to be distracted? Because the human is a vastly intelligent being of inestimable to an estimable degree. So, but why are we distracted? What allows us? What causes us to be distracted?
Oh. Many things.
Let's
I
break
would
it
say
down.
that it's because humans are so complicated. I think there's probably a few potential answers to this question. Not all of them might hit on what you're looking for, but of course we're distracted by this, well, the physical, effectively, what's here in front of us. We're distracted by this idea as well that sometimes we don't have what we need. And that would be rooted in a lack of acceptance. That's what I'm theorizing here. A lack of accepting, I have what I have what I need.
Yes, at a psychological level, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But let's have a look at it more pragmatically, mechanistically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Here is this intelligent being, this powerful being, the human, left to its own devices, allowed to function naturally without preconditioned narratives and stories. This being contains everything in order for it to function at a high level and a very low level. It's capable of functioning in a way which we as human beings currently cannot conceive of. So what happens that allows this God-man, God-woman, so to speak, just I want to hammer that point, to become unwilling to ask questions about the ideas that are motivating this being's life and mobilizing its energies towards the fulfillment of. What is it? And it's something which is, we're not looking yet in this conversation, the scope of conversation, we're not really looking at the roots of this. We're looking at what is it that you and I do daily today, that allows us, that enables us to remain in such a state that we feel unwilling to ask the right questions. In other words, that maintains our apathy. And it must be something that we do daily and regularly in order, for example, a drug addict, if he doesn't take his drug, or her drug, sooner or later, they will sober up. They will go through withdrawals, but they will sober up. So daily, that drug addict, which is keeping him or her in this inebriated state, has to keep taking the drug. I believe it's something similar than that, similar to that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what is it that we feed on daily that maintains our current state of apathy, which stops us from asking the right questions in order to examine those things that are driving our lives? What does the addict do? What do we do daily?
I'm thinking for this, the answer you're trying to bring out here is is either comfort or conditioning. Am I right?
Conditioning is our story. But today, why the drug addict is an addict, he has a story. There is that which brought him to, or her, to that place of addiction, their current state. But what is he doing now, which is maintaining his state, irrespective of what happened to him or her? She is continuously taking the drug. My question is, what is our drug? And
what do we feel is fulfilling a need?
What is the drug that I take daily? I drink water, I eat food, and
breathe.
and I breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our drug. That's how our state is maintained. We also ingest information through our social reality, through social media, through the books that we read, through the transference of stories that we unwittingly do with each other. So let's back down for a second, because the answer to this question that I have in my mind is simple. What we're doing that is maintaining our current state of apathy is in the food that we eat, is in the water that we drink, is in the things that we watch and see. It's in the sounds that we're listening to, and it is in our everyday. It is these consumption. It is these things that are maintaining our apathy, and it is these things that, if we hope to break through, to recover and to vivify again, to enliven again, so long we are drinking and eating poisoned foods. They're not the main thing, but they are important, because we're talking about the starting point. We're talking about recognition here of our apathy, which is causing us to be distracted and unwilling to ask the right questions in order to find out about the things that we are doing or believing that are motivating our lives and mobilizing our energies. This is no small thing. There is something which is in the passage of space and time, which is driving my life in a particular direction. I need to know what is behind it.
Yes.
It may be good, it may be bad, but I need to bring it into question. I need to know why I'm doing why I am chasing this idea of success before I go ahead and give it my full attention and my full power. All power to you, but I need to know why you're doing this. For example, sometimes I work with people who come to me and say, I want to change the world. Okay, great. Why? Well, what's motivating you? Well, no, hang on a second. Because it's the right thing. That's not an answer. What is motivating you? What is that motivation? To do the right thing is a noble thing. What's motivating you? It could be insecurity. It could be false perception. It could be false notion about who you think you are, and so on, and so on and so forth. So you can build success on wrong understanding. So we don't want to risk becoming successful at achieving the very thing that we don't want to happen.
Sure.
So to continue with this for a second, we have to start at the very, very beginning. First, we have to recognize our apathy. We're on drugs. We're drugged up. We're raised into addiction. We're raised to become dependent to the types of foods and drinks that we eat, to the social media that we watch, to the conversations that we have, to the narratives that we transmit to each other, and all of these things, the way we use each other, towards each other, what we evoke in each other, what we inspire in each other, women inspiring sex in men, men inspiring ideas of belonging and acceptance by men, all this kind of stuff. We're playing out programs that are based on beliefs that are unexamined. What I'm supposing proposing here that we take a look at what is it that keeps us in this state of apathy. And we're starting at the very, very beginning. First of all, the food that we eat. We no longer eat real living food. I'm not here in order to give a health advice. I'm just a philosopher who has taken a look at these ideas in a pragmatic sense. We need to take a look at the water that we drink. We need to take a look at the movies that we watch. We need to take a look at the songs that we are normalizing. We need to take a look at the behavior. But first, let's start with the three types of food that we eat: water, food, and air. There's a fourth type, but we don't need to go into that conversation. That's beyond us necessarily. Let's start with the earth food, the type of food that sustains our physicality. We eat shit food, excuse me. We eat Woolies food that's dead, has no substance in it, all face on the outside, rotten on the inside. Tomatoes look like tomatoes, right? It reminds me of, like, you know, like, it doesn't matter. But all glamour on the outside, empty and dull on the inside. We drink chlorinated, fluoridated water, which is a poison. It keeps us vibrating at a certain frequency. Now, water is more important than food, because we can survive on food for how long? 40-something days or something before we...
It's quite a while. I'm not sure on the exact...
Something 48 days or something.
We can go quite a while without food. Water, I think it's like 3 days or something. It might be a bit more, but not sure. 3-4
days, and then then air, 3 to 4 minutes we pack it, and if you're under stressed out conditions, 2 minutes, less even. Now, these refer to the 3 elements. Now, if I was going to try to control a population, and I'm not going into conspiracy here because I'm not interested in any opinions and ideas. I don't believe in anything, and I don't believe in that. I need to believe in anything in order to live. I'm not talking about a deity or God or reverence. Certainly, that is a truism for me. Deity is, I know it because it is it. It is reality. You know, divinity is reality. The sacred is reality. It's not something I have to believe in. It is a living reality in me and around me and everywhere that we can look. It is there as a testimony to itself, you know. Anyway, the point is here is that these 3 things, these 3 types of foods that sustain our beingness. If I was going to control a species, I'd control their food, I'd control their water, and I would control their air. There is another thing that I would control, but it's the highest form of food. Of these 3 types of survival, I call these foods, I call them a survival strategy. Food with the mouth, digestible food, is a physical survival strategy. It's the earth element. Water is another survival strategy. 2-3 days, I'm dead without it. Air, you know, if you go on a survival mission, you take that with you before the other 2. There is a 4th one, and that is fire. And this comes through the impressions that we pick up. And we can't exist without fire, without impressions and fire for half a second. We're continuously making impressions. Even if you are in a closed white room, you will be making impressions. You cannot survive without impressions. It's the highest source of food. It's the impressions that we get through television. It's the impressions that we get through walking in nature, seeing people. And if you need to control a population, control the impressions first, then control the air second, and then control the water and control the food. Well, here for us, that's what's keeping us in our apathy, because a free man, a free woman, a free man is a free woman, is a spontaneous entity. He, she is living spontaneously by way of direct transmission, that which is coming from the collective or the totality or the all, now and now and now. There's no need for mind or memory. There's no need for ideas or beliefs, in other words. A free man, a free woman does not have beliefs. They don't they don't, they don't, they don't live their life. They don't use stories in order to separate them from reality. They don't use memory. There's no memory. Memory is there to access in order to do, but they're spontaneously being guided by the moment, by the. But to free this machine,
That's freedom. Yeah.
yes, you have to. But as long as this machine is a drug addict, it's not receptive to the impressions of the totality, to live spontaneously, because it's the mind is numbed, dumbed down, the emotions are dumbed down, and the physical is dumbed down to survival. Now, our food. So anyone who is listening to this who wants to begin, well, how do I begin towards breaking away from all of this? This is where I'm going with this.
Yeah. What's the solution? And we've talked about that before.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the
So where do we begin? We begin with
well,
being mindful of our food.
yeah. You're right about, I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, when it comes to what we consume and how that influences us in terms of its addictive qualities, all of everything you just said. If you want to control people, you control their needs, their human needs, air, food, water, impressions, of course, as well. But we've talked about this in the past in regards to becoming the solution being independent or acting independently of those systems, right? As independently as you could possibly be. So I think this is why a lot of people, see the idea of like, oh, well, I'm going to go off into the woods. I'm going to get out of the city. I'm going to go into the woods and I'm going to grow my own food and I'm going to do this sort of thing. But surely there is a more practical way that we can get, clean air, which you don't see in cities that are polluted. In Canberra, where I live, it's obviously it's a little better, but generally speaking, I would say the air in most cities and most places is heavily polluted. Water is definitely polluted with chemicals. It's treated, that sort of thing. And food is obviously largely poison, effectively. So, and addictive. It's made to be addictive. So it's no surprise that people are struggling, when what we're consuming, and I'm not perfect, I still eat bad food from time to time. But it's no surprise that a lot of people aren't putting out good stuff. They're not producing good things when they're consuming shit. Of course, you actually said to me a long time ago, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it? I don't know if you remember that. There was when you squeeze an orange or like any sort of fruit, what comes out of it? Well, what's inside of it? And obviously, what's inside of it comes out when it's put under pressure. Of course. So,
and you can't squeeze orange juice out of a banana either. But that's what we expect.
If you're consuming negativity, you're consuming poison. Well, what are you putting out into the world? Like it's what's inside of you is going to come out at some point. And if it's comprised of poison and negativity, then and that's what you consume, then that's what you're going to be putting out into the world. So it's obviously important to focus on what we consume and to make that as to really put a lot of intention into consuming the best possible sources of our needs.
Yeah. And that's if we are already on board. We're mindful of this idea. Yes. So first, first is to be mindful of these facts, that what we consume is important. And so that's the first step, being aware that what you put in, what you consume through the five orifices: nose, ears, eyes, and the others. I don't know whether that's right to say it that way, but through the five perceptual apparatuses, we feed through our eyes, through our nose, through our mouth, through our ears, through our sense organs. Each one of them is a source of food. We've got to become mindful of that. Second thing is, as you rightly put, we'll know what's inside of you when you're put under pressure.
Yeah.
But what you put in is what your output cannot be different from your input.
Mm-hmm.
And then to become aware of the food, to start to improve at least our eating habits by, if you can improve your daily eating intake by, let's say, 10%, this is excellent. Mm-hmm. Even 10% is excellent. 20%, excellent. Don't go crazy. 100%, you don't need to. You won't be able to do it. You will have a crisis, because if you've been addict on shit, like all of us, you will have withdrawals, the body, and there can be intolerable, unbearable. So improve your eating, become aware of the fact that there is a thing to become mindful of. And you're not doing it just to be, I need to be healthy. It's much more than that. You're not that important in order to be healthy, I mean, I'm just trying to say there's a much bigger picture here at play. So need to become aware of our intake, food intake, improve it by 10, 20% a day. Progressively, over 6 months to a year, you can improve your eating habits 100%. Mm-hmm. The second thing, improve your water intake, at least 10% a day. Start slowly, start smartly, start pragmatically weaning yourself of all the stuff that we've become addicted to. Slowly, if you take too much sugar, slowly wean yourself off. Give yourself about 6 months to 12 months. Be realistic. Be like a ballerina who understands it takes a while to learn. I worked with, when I was in Stuttgart, I coached the Stuttgart ballerina keep there. And these are professional ballerinas at the top of their game. I worked with them for about 3 months, and they were unbelievable. When I said to them, and I work with them with the breath to help to free up their movements, to bring more grace in their movements with rebirthing, with breath work. And I said to them, look, this is going to take time. And they just looked at me and said, and what doesn't? These people understood what it takes to succeed. Right? I found exactly the same thing with, I worked with the Portuguese national women's volleyball team. And the same thing. I said, I rebirthed them. And said, this is the sort of thing, working with the breath, I mean to say, for those who don't know what rebirthing is, I said, this takes time. And they said, yes, okay. Yes, these are sober-minded people who know what it takes. But the majority of people are not sober-minded. They are inebriated. They expect everything for nothing. They think things will just happen at the drop of a coin. No, it's not. I understand why they think like this. We have the ability to think in big picture, but we live in space and time where things take time to realize our ideas that we can have in full in the moment. You can see yourself living in a beautiful home. It takes you 6 years to get it, or 60 years. That's frustrating, but still, we've got to respect space and time, because that's where we conduct our lives in right now. So improve slowly, step by step. Improve your daily intake of food, 10, 15%. You'll feel much better by and it won't be extreme. It won't be an extreme health sport. Improve your water. And then take up some breath work. Start to become more cognizant, more aware of the fact that you're a breathing human being. I mean, we are, as a collective, so far gone that we need to speak in this sort of childish, amateurish way, and it will seem like what I'm saying is wisdom. What I'm saying is not wisdom, it's common sense. It's not the height of wisdom by any means. It's simply that every day we improve, become, in terms of the air, the highest strategy, become more aware of your breathing daily. Take in at least a few deep breaths. And if you can take up a breath work practice where you breathe 5-10 minutes daily, excellent. Woohoo, you're on, right? So improve these 3 intakes. The 4th thing is become more cognizant, more aware of the things that you feed through your eyes. What movies do you watch? Improve the shows that you watch. Stop watching gore, stop watching glamour, stop watching all that crap, that Hollywood nonsense. Watch things that inspire you. For example, I love to watch guitar making on YouTube.
Yeah, that's
It
great.
feels wonderful to see these artists and these wonderful artisans making all sorts of amazing instruments. So be aware of what you are allowing through your eyes, even through the nose. Don't have a candle burning with synthetics in your room. It's not good. All of these things diminish the human function. So that's what I'm saying by practically. Listening also, this is part of the water element, the emotions. Listen to beautiful music. A lot of people, like what we've normalized as normal music listening, this is atrocious. So people come and say, I want to change my life, where I should start. I suggest you start by improving your food intake by 10% daily, your water intake by 10% daily. In other words, drink only pure water, good water, 5-10%, or drink more if you don't drink. And don't drink, gulp it, just sip throughout the day, little sips of water regularly. Become aware. And also water is a remarkable information carrier. So in other words, what is holy water? For example, we all know the stories of holy water you find in churches. What makes it so holy? Simply the energy of the people that come in there with this reverence, or in the mosque, or in the church, or in the wherever it is. What do? Well, I have a regular daily meditation practice for years. You know what I do to my water? First of all, I don't drink water from the tap, but I only drink old water, meaning it's been with me at least for a day. It absorbs my information. I keep my water in my room, but you don't have to go crazy. I'm not extreme at all, but these are normal things for me. And then in my meditation, I always have a glass of water in the hour and a half that I've got my cross-legged sitting. I've got a glass of water next to me. I know it's absorbing my information. And then I drink it and say, thank you. I create my own holy water. These are not weird things. These are absolutely normal things. These are scientifically based things. We know water, the molecules of water change according to the experiments have been done.
It's receptive, yeah.
It's receptive. It's an information carrier. It's wonderful, wonderful intelligence. And drinking slowly with reverence, thank you for this water. It knows what it's doing to you and for you. And air, the same thing. I have a regular daily breathing meditation. I breathe 20 minutes every day, rhythmic breathing. So that's how you start to become a millionaire. Where do I want to become a millionaire? Good, that's good for you. Start by improving your food. Start by improving your water. Get your life in order. Learn to tie your shoelaces before you want to get out there and change the world. I want to change the world. Why? You feel so bad about yourself that you must achieve something so huge just to feed your insecurity. No, become whole in the small. Tidy your room, tidy your shoelaces, do your shoelaces, put things back, take care of and do not ignore them, do not neglect them. 3 to 6 months until you've shown yourself you can now improve your vision, your dream. And what's this thing with dreams? Everybody follow your, what is it? Follow your dream or whatever. Live your dream life. Dreaming's for sleeping, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Visions are for the waking. I don't want to follow my dream. You should see where it took me yesterday. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do want to go there, but
the wild landscape in there.
Yeah. So you see where just a question like, what is success? You see what just a question, and that's what the human is capable of. 2 people ask a question like this and hold the space for potential conversation to be transmitted. That's what a human is. We're capable of that. But we don't freaking ask the right questions. What is success? We start with what we know and then dive deeper. We realize that success is connected to the idea of gain and loss. Gain and loss of what? Something I need, I believe I need in order to be happy. But am I needy? Well, I guess. No, let's have a look at this. We question it and we see that this idea of need is based on a presumption, on an idea about myself, which we haven't examined, and we must in brief. But before we do that, we go, well, the idea of need, we entered into this idea of need and say, well, why don't we ask questions? Why don't we? We took an intermission, if you will. Why don't we ask questions? When you said, because we're distracted, and I said, okay, let's go there.
Yeah.
And what allows us to be distracted? You have this extraordinary being, three-brained being, mind, emotions, spine, physical, brains that work together. Our thoughts can cause the entire universe to vibrate. It can call the wave function to collapse. The wave function, science tells us, from wave to particle. My thought is an electrical charge that summons God to vibrate and come into reality. And what are we doing with all of this power? We got to ask questions in order to get to the bottom of this. And we realize through asking, am I needy? What causes me to distracted so as not to really know my true power? And we discover that, well, we have to start. The fact is our physiology, our biology is numbed down with the food that we take, Woolies and Coles food and supermarket food. It's not alive. The second thing, we drink chlorinated, fluoridated, whatever water, which has dulled down our deeper perceptions. And we don't breathe. Most people don't breathe. If you watch them, they take one breath every now and then, and here, live on that. So we're oxygen breathers, but we don't know how to breathe energy. Wow. And then the last thing is fire. Forget fire. It's not even available in the West. You know, there are parts of the world where you can, you know, like in India, you can light a fire and you can urinate anywhere you want in public. So it's fire element is still available, but in the West, and that too is corrupted in the candles that people light up. They put synthetics and so on. So we're really bombarding our biology, chemistry, neurology, and our energy. We're bombarding it with. So we start there. That's you. First, you have to become let's call it a sober being before you begin to implement your new vision in the world. People come and say, I want to work with you in order to realize, to achieve success. Go, I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not helping you. Your success is based on wrong foundations. What do you think you are? Who do you think you are as a human? You think you're a biological, limited to biology, chemistry, and neurology. I don't think it's a good idea that you should ever get power. First, let's heal your understandings about yourself. Let's heal the current beliefs that you're holding true about what it means. You, first of all, now, what do we believe? We're raised into a narrative that tells us we're physical beings and that consciousness is the fruit of physicality, of matter. What? That the mind is a product of mind, of physiology. And so the very starting point of our lives is really flawed. It's an error of cognition. And we believe that we're physical beings, that I am this body, that I'm these emotions, these feelings, and I'm this thought. I am my experience. I am my name. I am my nationality. All these have to be examined. So my question to myself and to you and to our listeners, if there are any, is this. On what basis am I building my life? On what belief? Is it important to know? Let's say I am physical, then it's fine. But what if I'm not a physical being? What if I am not born? What if I'm not person? I'm not a human. What if that's the case? And what if I don't have a life to live? And what if I'm not responsible for that life? And what if I don't have to get it right and wrong because there's no such a thing? What if I realize that I am spirit being, deathless, eternal? Upon this premise, I might build an entirely different life. That's what we need to first find out. Upon what belief am I basing my living? So you see, this is why there's no two ways of speaking about this thing, because the very orientation, the very thing that we're using to motivate our lives and to mobilize our energies is a misconception about self.
Mhm.
It is no wonder. And anyone who doubts this and anyone who puts this into question, we need only point them in the direction of our recent history. We don't have to go very far. In the last 100, 200 years, we've killed over 200 million people with guns. I remember my father once said, he said, you know, the only thing that the human has gotten better at is how to kill.
That's concerning.
So anyone who's questioning this narrative that is motivating our lives, just look at the results of this experiment. We're killers, we're butchers, we're dumb, we're numb, and there are people in the know who are charlatans and who are controlling the movement of things. They have vested interest. I don't mean they as in it's an algorithmic reality. It's AI now. It's already operational. So what you and I are doing here, and I know I've sort of hijacked this conversation a little bit, but I think it really has a voice of its own. So you'll forgive if I have done that, but I really do want to point out that that's where we start. We start with our food, our water, our air, you know, and what we watch and what we consume. Do that for 3 months. 3 to 6 months, and you'll by now you have come out of addiction to some degree, and you'll be open to a higher conversation. You will receive higher impressions that will guide your life in an entirely different place.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's actually good to touch on the solution to the problem.
I think, and simply so, yeah, it starts with food, water, air. Start there. Start building your fortune there.
Yeah, just looking after yourself as well, rather than trying to change the entire world before you've, handled what's going on with yourself.
Yes, but not in order to achieve health. That's an egoic idea. Yeah. Health is our natural state. We don't need to make it a job. We don't need to make it an ego task. Health is wonderful. Everybody loves it, but it's natural that we are healthy. We're doing this because we are a vital component of this total thing. And as you rightly put, our output matches our input. We expect to contribute love, then we really need to be love. You can't be just mindless of your ingestion of what you consume and then expect to be able to put that back. Lay golden goose eggs.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's 100% correct. It's probably consumption is one of the most important things that we should pay attention to, and obviously
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a starting point.
And what we've seen, particularly since the rise of the internet, obviously, is the control systems that we've alluded to here are they're obviously very organized and very powerful.
Amazing. AI is powerful. It's organized. It's already in place.
Yeah, this network,
it's already there.
This network of organizations, whatever, it's definitely got interest in making sure that people remain customers. I suppose that's probably the best way I can think to put it right now.
Oh, it's self-interested. It works algorithmically, and it's vested in maintaining itself.
Yeah.
AI is interested in maintaining itself in the same way that our mind, ego, personality, person, Bassam, is interested in maintaining himself.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
But does this AI, this network system, have our best interests at heart?
No,
Absolutely not.
no, it
No
doesn't.
way.
No.
Yeah, it's so, I come across this a lot. A lot of people are kind of blown away when I start discussing, hey, do you think this system has your best interest at heart? And they're like, of course it does. I think, hold on, here's this, here's this, here's this. And they go, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, think on that. There are
Ponder on that.
Yeah, yeah. There are systems in this world that are not working in our favor. So while it is our natural state to be healthy, I do think that in the right society, it's normal, right? It's in the right society, it's normal to be healthy. But you can see from looking around that people clearly are not the epitome of health. It's very distinct. You high levels of anxiety, depression everywhere. Really severe
Speak
problem.
for themselves, right?
Yeah. Like I'm not perfect, right? But I see it all the time. I see a lot of people talking about how bad things are frequently. So obviously there is a problem that indicates that something, whether that be the system of society itself or any particular society, say with the city I live in or whatever, something is wrong at the core. Something's rotten, And I think you're right that, well, for one, the solution to this is there's an individual level where you can look after yourself, you can look after your own water, your own food, etc. And there's also a need for, I feel there's potentially a need for a greater solution for society. And when you have these powerful systems, this AI network, working against what is best for us, while that continues to persist, I think that humans are going to struggle. It's a war, really. It's a war. And you could say it's a war on consciousness, a war on humanity, however you want to phrase it. But ultimately, I have this feeling that the humans are winning. It's very strange. I feel like we're unbeatable in a sense. It's too no mechanism can keep this, can destroy the human spirit. It just doesn't feel, I don't feel that's possible. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're
wrong.
no, I think again it's the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in pudding. Spirit is space. It doesn't matter how many rooms you erect to try to contain space. Inevitably, the walls will tumble, but space prevails. Space, spirit, consciousness, God, same word, intelligence. And biology, chemistry, and neurology cannot contain space forever. Sooner or later, biology, chemistry, neurology falls apart. Space prevails, always. Consciousness prevails. The self prevails. That which says I'm human is not human. That which says I am the body is not a body. That which says I am mind is not mind. That which says I am emotions is not emotions. That which says I am this person is not this person, you know. So I think you're right. Well, I don't think you're right. It's a prevailing truth that spirit. When we talk about the human spirit, we are referring to the human, and the human as a physical being may not prevail, but spirit absolutely prevails.
Exactly.
Always. Now, okay, let's see if we can bring this conversation to a, because we've been talking for about an hour and 10 minutes or so. See if we can bring it down to towards completion, but definitely food for thought. But essentially for me, what I came to see is that really, if we really have to, this is much bigger, this question of who we are, success. And so it's much bigger than the individual, although it plays out in the individual's life as my life, you know. But what we're talking about here is that individually, at least for ourselves, we can begin to question the narratives that we hold to be true about ourselves. The Buddha himself said, do not accept anything just because they tell you so. Oh. I've myself have even questioned this. For example, there is this idea that I'm a person. Is that true? I question that also. I have seriously questioned that. Or that I am human. Is it true? Or that I have a life to live. Is that true also? Or I'm responsible for that life, as I mentioned earlier, and that I have to get it right and wrong. I've questioned these and I continue to question them. And I have found that not a single one of these apparent indissolvable truths are real. They're not true. I am not a person. I'm not human. I don't have a life to live. That's a difficult one for anyone to accept. Life lives through me. I don't have a life. Life lives through me. And I'm not responsible for my life. What? All of these ideas give me this idea of a life that I have to live. And I'm responsible for it. And I can get it right and wrong and please God. And I'm dying on top of it all. I'm dying. I've got to live within this pressure cooker. That's a disaster. No wonder people kill. No wonder we rape, because we are basing our reality on a false narrative which does not stand up to scrutiny. I am a person. Now, someone listening to this is probably going to think, but I am a person. No, you're not. You're just a memory of what you call a person. A person is just a word. Do you need the word in order to be? Okay, so I am this. That's different. Now you're pointing to the body and saying, I'm this body. Are you really? What is experiencing the body? The body is an experience, is a perceptual experience. It's a mental interpretation of what I'm looking at through the senses. On behalf of whom is this experience of the body happening? What is this deeper intelligence? Well, that's the mind. Who is experiencing the mind? Thoughts come and go. But what is the field that does not? How do I know that, oh, that thought is gone? It's been replaced by another. So if I'm the mind, why haven't I changed? The mind is changing, an ever-changing phenomenon within the field of my awareness. I'm changing. So it would seem there is a deeper dimension of awareness. Well, let awareness look at itself and see what it finds. Looking out, feeling in, looking out, looking in. Yeah. Becoming bifocal. I'm looking out, but I'm looking in. I'm looking at you, but I don't see you necessarily.
Very useful skill. Being able to be bifocal, to observe ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
I've returned home. The prodigal son, the prodigal daughter has returned home from outside, where the fixation has been since I was a little boy, you turning and going back in. I draw back. I call back my energies. I call back my awareness. I call back my attention from its fixation on the world, and it has returned back in. piece of, like an elastic band that's stretched outside, is released back into itself. It is in the nature of elasticity to long for return. It is in the nature of awareness that has been stretched away from itself to long to return for freedom. Freedom is just literally a collapsing back of my attention awareness back to myself. The prodigal son, the prodigal daughter has returned home. So where do I start? Improve my food, improve my drink intake. We must sober up the body, because the spirit is living in a body which is decay, which is corrupted by, and the corruption is being sustained by foods which do not activate the richness of this body. There are beings who are so pure again. They're capable of. I know of one man who could kill a not that you want to kill a goat, but could kill a goat from a kilometer away, just with the power of his intensity.
Yeah, wow.
Now, that's what the human is capable of, not to kill. I'm saying this as a demonstration of something ridiculous. There are beings in the Himalayas that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. Physically, they maintain, not because they want to live for 1,000 years, but because they are aspiring fully for enlightenment in a single life. So there's tremendous things that are possible with this human physiology. But would you call it intelligent now on the street? We eat on garbage. No wonder it cannot function. It cannot activate its higher function. Higher mind, capable of clarity and vision and precision. Higher emotions, capable of love. Higher physicality, capable of longevity. So we have to free, very first thing, before we even think about freeing ourselves, we have to free ourselves from entrapment in the foods that we eat, that are maintaining our imprisonment, that are keeping us distracted from asking real questions that we need to ask in order to enter into the verity of, am I really needy? Which is driving my energies towards gain and loss and achievement, which I count as I have succeeded or have not succeeded. So I feel finally that we've, skinned that goat. I seem to be talking a lot about goats today. I'm from the Middle East. I'm Lebanese, and I grew up as a kid in Syria and village. So goats and very dear to me. I love goats. Apparently there's a Mongolian saying: "Have we skinned that goat yet?" In other words, have we addressed this question of what is success? Is it simply a question of monetary gain and getting? No, it's related to this idea of need, which is according to this idea about myself as a physical being. I'm needy, but my starting point isn't needy. When I understand that I'm pure spirit, I realize that happiness is my essential nature, and I'm here to share it with the world and to celebrate it. I'm not here to achieve it. Happiness is not an achievement. We've turned it into an achievement. Happiness is my nature. I'm here to share it, to celebrate it through innovation, through human endeavor. I'm not here to achieve freaking happiness. As long as I have a task, I'm here to achieve happiness, success, failure, according to that idea. I don't stop. And if I don't stop, I don't get to discover my spirit.
Amazing. Do you think you've covered it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we've as I said earlier, I've apologized if I took the reins, but I think I just needed to convey this, at least in this particular conversation, and to highlight very practical things we can begin.
Well, that's kind of the important part. Is the last thing I wanted to drive home here is that I think for people, it's a lot of people, when I talk about this is happening in the world, this is happening in the world, people think, well, what can I do? And it's like, well, you start with yourself and you spread it,
Start
you
there.
share it. And that's how the world improves on a whole. It's everyone comes up together, not one person at a time. Or you know, sometimes it is one person at a time, and then another, then another, then another. But and they spread that. But as the collective improves, we all improve. It's
the collective
simple.
is a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
The collective is a pack of wolves. You know, what we're at the top of the pack of wolves are always the oldest, and they set the speed and the motion, and the same thing with humanity. Those who are guiding are at the forefront, at the very front, who are moving us. They're setting the speed of our evolution. Are the weakest.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
The leaders are all the way in the back.
Yeah.
So, my friend, let's end our conversation with that. And I'm sure we're going to have more conversations. I hope we've covered some interesting stuff here. If anyone is listening to this and you want to make comment, please share your understandings and your comments. And we'll see you again in our next conversation. Take care. This is
Thank you,
Bassam and Harry. Thank you so much, Harry, for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you too. I appreciate it.
Likewise, brother.